Chapter 3, Example 2. Find the new draft and the true mean draft. So in order to calculate your true mean draft, you first need to calculate your final drafts after the weight shift. And in order to do that, you have to calculate your change of trim first for your forward and your aft ends. So to calculate the trim forward, it's going to be the trim times the distance of the forward perpendicular to the longitudinal center of flotation. And if we look at the diagram and the example, these are already calculated for us, divided by the total length. So our trim is 23 centimeters aft times 41.5, and that's the distance from your forward perpendicular to the LCF, divided by 80. So your change of trim forward, the answer will be in centimeters, 11.931 centimeters. Now we have to convert this to meters. So in order to do that, we're going to divide by 100. So our change of trim forward will be decimal 119 meters. Now to calculate your change of trim aft, the formula is your trim times the distance of the aft perpendicular to the longitudinal center of flotation divided by your total length. So again, if you look in your diagram, the distance from the aft perpendicular to the LCF is 38.5. So you take your trim, which is 23, times 38.5, divided by the total length of 80. So your change of trim aft is going to be in centimeters, 11.069 centimeters. Again, we need to convert this to meters, so we're going to divide by 100. We end up with decimal 111 meters for our change of trim aft. So now that we've calculated our change of trim forward and our change of trim aft for this weight shift, we can now calculate our final drafts. So our initial drafts forward was 19.25 meters, and our initial draft aft was 19.35 meters. So if you add your forward draft and your aft draft together and divide by 2, you get a mean draft of 19.3 meters. Now we apply our calculated change of trim, and they told us that the weight was shifted aft, so therefore your forward draft will decrease, so we subtract decimal 119 meters. And your draft aft will increase, so we add decimal 111 meters. So our final drafts after the shift of weight forward will be 19.131 meters. And for aft, be 19.461 meters. Now again, you take the forward draft, you add the aft draft, divide by 2, you get a mean draft of 19.3 meters. So as you can see, the mean draft before and after the cargo operations is the same, and that's because this was for a shift of weight. So to calculate your final trim, you're going to take your forward draft and aft draft and apply them together. So it's 19.461 minus 19.131. So our final trim, and this is in an aft direction, is 0.33 meters. So now that we've done this calculation, we can calculate our final true mean draft. So the formula for our final true mean draft, you can calculate it either for your draft aft or your draft forward, it doesn't matter, for a weight shift. In this case, we're going to take the draft aft. In the book, it also shows you the proof for calculating the draft forward. So your true mean draft is your draft aft minus your final trim times the distance of the longitudinal center of flotation to the aft perpendicular divided by your total length. So our final draft aft is 19.461 meters minus your final trim, which we calculated as being 0.33 meters, times the distance of the LCF to the aft perpendicular, which we look at the diagram, we see is 38.5, divided by our total length of 80. So I'm going to calculate this out. Our draft aft, 19.461 meters minus 0.1588 meters. So our final true mean draft is the same as it was before the cargo operations, 19.3 meters. So when there's a longitudinal weight shift in the vessel, the draft forward and aft will change, but the mean draft and the true mean draft will remain the same. So as you can see, 19.3 meters is our true mean draft.